Alright, it's been 5 days since. Sorry for the wait, but we're back. Goku in DC, Season 4, Episode 8. Goku meets up with Lex Luther, so let's go ahead and get into it. Oh man, what am I doing? Hold on 1 second. I forgot to put this here, but I can still go to it. Man. Shout out to the members. Jason, 57835, John Lane 2016, OD Demon Wolf 34, and Quate Moke. Man, shout out to the members, man. I appreciate it, man. The memberships, man, help me out with the channel. Alright. I get enough members, I'm gonna be able to increase the production of this channel. So yeah, shout outs to y'all. I forgot. And also shout out to much love to my subscribers. So anyway, now let's get into it. Goku in DC episode 8, season 4. Let's go. The first rays of dawn painted the sky over Themyscira in shadows of rose and gold. Filtering into the quiet chamber Goku and Diana shared. Goku was sprawled on his back, one arm flung over his eyes, in a deep sleep. Diana was already awake. She watched him with a soft smile as her hand rested on her abdomen. The peace was absolute, broken only by the distant cry of birds in the background. Then a sharp electronic buzz cut through the serenity. Goku jolted awake with a snort, fumbling blindly on the nightstand. He found the sleek Justice League communicator that was given to him, a stark contrast to the room's ancient stone. Squinting, he answered, "Lo." "Goku, I trust I'm not interrupting your beauty sleep." Lex Luthor's voice was smooth as polished marble, carrying that familiar blend of amusement and thinly veiled impatience. "Lex?" Goku mumbled, sitting up, rubbing his eyes. Diana raised an eyebrow at that name, her expression shifting to one of mild concern. "The very same. I'm calling as a courtesy reminder. The Luthor Corp Gala commences this evening at 8 o'clock sharp. Metropolis Bayfront Pavilion. Black tie is optional for you, but your attendance is not." There was a pause, laden with unspoken understanding. "I know how your memory can be regarding social engagements." Goku's face cleared as recollection dawned. "Oh, right. The party thing. Yeah, I remember." He glanced at Diana, who gave a slight, wary nod. They had not discussed this, but she wasn't offended because knowing Goku, he tends to forget things when violence isn't involved. Then he spoke. "Look, I said I'd be there, so I will." "Excellent," Lex purred, the sound of a satisfied cat. "It will be a monumental evening, showcasing a new day for the American people. Your presence will add a certain unique perspective to it." Just remember," Goku interjected, his tone turning firm and uncharacteristically serious. "I'm coming, like I promised. But I'm not giving a speech. No talking in front of crowds. That was the deal, remember?" On the other end, Lex chuckled. A dry, knowing sound. "Of course. Your terms are perfectly clear. I wouldn't dream of putting you on a podium. Your presence alone will speak volumes. Simply circulate, enjoy the cuisine. I've had the chefs prepare special high-protein menu with your caloric needs in mind, and be seen. That is all I require." "All right, well, okay," Goku said, already swinging his legs out of bed. "See you there." "Perfect," Lex replied, the word crisp and final. Then the line went dead. Goku placed his communicator back down and stretched, his spine popping. He turned to Diana. "I guess I'm going to a party tonight." Diana's smile was tight, her eyes holding a universe of caution. "Just remember who you're dealing with, my love." "Yeah, I know," Goku said. But his mind was already on the promised food and the chance to see the gravity chamber's benefactor in person. The complexity of Lex Luthor was a puzzle he never felt the need to solve, because as long as the training equipment kept working, there was nothing else to talk about. Goku stared at the blank screen of his communicator after Lex's call ended. The words "black tie was optional" echoing in his mind. A party, a fancy one in Metropolis. Lex's voice had that sharp, expectant edge to it, the one that meant this was more than just free food. It was some type of transaction, more than likely. Goku had promised to show up, and he always kept his promises, but the dressing formal part was slightly a problem. He scratched his head, looking down at his worn orange gi. This definitely wouldn't cut it. Bruce would probably just grunt and point him to some stuffy armored tuxedo. Clark would offer his own suit, which would fit Goku like a child wearing his father's clothes. And then a memory surfaced, clear and helpful. He remembered Diana standing awkwardly in Man's World for the first time, with that same look of bewildered determination on her face, telling him that I require attire for a job interview, and his own solution was, Lois! She'll know what to do. A grin spread across his face. That had worked out perfectly. Lois Lane had a no-nonsense way of cutting through confusion. She saw a problem and fixed it. She'd known just what to get Diana, making her look both powerful and professional. If she could handle the princess of Themyscira, she could surely handle him in his predicament. With the decision made, he needed a suit. Lois knew suits. Therefore, he was going to go to Lois. He bounded over to Diana, who was watching him with that familiar mix of affection and concern. I gotta go see Lois, he announced. Lois? Why? Diana asked, though a hint of a knowing smile played on her lips. For the party. Lex said to dress nice. Remember when you needed clothes and Lois helped us out. She's good at that kind of stuff. His logic was impeccable, in a straight line from problem to solution. Diana's smile widened. She remembered the bank robbery, interrupting their shopping trip, and how effortlessly herself and Goku had handled that situation. She is, indeed, just try not to break anything in her office. I won't, he promised, already heading for the balcony. I'll just ask real quick and be out. With a final wave, he stepped off the balcony of the Themysciran palace. Instead of falling, the air crackled around him and he shot forward, not with the word-shattering boom of a full-powered launch, but with a controlled thrum of energy. He became a streak of blue and white against the bright morning sky, arcing over the sparkling Aegean Sea, his course set unerringly for the towering spires of Metropolis and the bustling hive of the Daily Planet. He didn't ponder fashion trends or social etiquette. He focused on the simple, satisfying trajectory toward a friend who could help out in his predicament. The problem of the suit would soon be solved in his eyes. The newsroom of the Daily Planet was a symphony of controlled chaos. The clack of keyboards, the murmur of phones, the faint smell of stale coffee and ink. Lois Lane was in her element, perched on the edge of her desk, gesturing with a half-eaten powdered donut. And that is why Smallville, she said, punctuating the air with the pastry. When a source says meet at midnight, they don't mean 12:07. They mean midnight. It's about professionalism. It's about trust. It's about not making me stand in the rain-soaked alley next to a malfunctioning dumpster for 10 extra minutes while you're struggling to read a damn GPS location. Hey, Lois. The voice, cheerful and familiar, came directly from behind her. Lois jumped, a cloud of powdered sugar puffing into the air as she whirled around. Goku stood there, hands in the pockets of his dusty gi, smiling as if he strolled out on the elevator instead of apparently materializing from the vents. Clark, leaning against the adjacent desk, barely managed to hide his own surprise behind a sip of coffee. Goku, Lois exhaled, brushing sugar off her blazer. A little warning. You don't have to use the windows, you know. Yeah, this was faster, Goku said, his grin unchanging. Hey, listen, I need a favor. You're good at clothes stuff, right? I need a suit. Like a fancy one. For a party tonight. Lois stared at him. She took in the spiky hair, the calloused hands, the utter absence of anything resembling sartorial concern. She pinched the bridge of her nose. Goku, sweetie. I'm a Pulitzer-winning investigative journalist, not a personal stylist. I helped Diana once as a favor because the alternative was her going to a museum gala looking like she just finished a triathlon. Clark has told me that you are friends with Bruce Wayne. So you have a billionaire on speed dial, so just go ask Bruce. He probably owns like a dozen tailors. Yeah, but you're probably better at it, Goku insisted, his logic impeccable. Come on, it'll be fast. Just point me at something at the store, I'll put it on. No, Lois said, her tone shifting from exasperated to firm. I can't. I'm up to my eyeballs in a real story, you know. The kind that involves actual work and doesn't end with a building falling down. She tossed the rest of her donut into the trash and grabbed a manila folder from her desk. her eyes alight with a different kind of intensity. Look, I've got a source deep inside a biotech black site. There's whispering about something called Project Red Ribbon. It's not just weapons research, Clark. She leaned in, her voice dropping, though Goku could hear every word perfectly. They're not just building robots. They're growing them and hybridizing them. Synthetic tissues over a cybernetic core. My sources use the word androids, but that doesn't even fully cover it. They're talking about perfecting prototype templates, stripping away unreliable biological components like empathy, fatigue, conscience. The goal isn't an army of tin cans, it's a new breed of cyber metahumans. One that can be programmed, controlled. In the funding trials, they're a spider web of shell companies, but the silk all leads back to one name popping up in the procurement logs. Jarreau. She looked directly at Clark, her gaze sharp. Ring any bells? Because my gut says this isn't just corporate espionage. This is someone building a solution to a superhuman problem. And I believe they are the reason for this file on missing scientists. This party you're going to, Goku. Be careful. The most dangerous monsters in Metropolis don't always wear their fangs on the outside. Sometimes they wear a tuxedo and serve canapes while they plot the next forced evolution for mankind or something. She straightened up, tapping the folder against her palm. So sorry. No suit shopping. I've got a city to save the old-fashioned way. Journalism. With a pen, a hunch, and a source who's risking their neck. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a narrative to structure before Perry has a conniption. Lois's sharp gaze held Clark's for a charged moment after her warning, the weight of her investigation hanging in the air between them, because they had talked about this prior. She saw the familiar concern tighten the corners of his eyes, concern for her and for the city, and now probably for his brother walking into what he assumed was Lex's party. With a sigh that was more fond than exasperated, she waved a hand toward Goku, who was still looking hopefully between them as if the suit might materialize through sheer force of will. Go on, Smallville, she said, her voice softening just a fraction. Get him sorted. I don't need you hovering right now anyway. This digging is a solo act until I have more than shadows and whispers. All right, Lois, thanks. Be careful. Always am. She was already turning back to her screen, the journalist's fire reigniting in her posture. The conversation was closed. Goku perked up immediately. Wait, so you're going to help Clark? Come on, Clark said, steering his brother toward the elevator with a hand on his shoulder, leaving the buzz of the newsroom behind. We'll find you something presentable. But we're leaving here the normal way. Through the front door. As the elevator door slid shut, Goku grinned, the mystery of Project Red Ribbon already fading within his mind, replaced by the immediate solvable puzzle of a necktie. Clark, however, stared at the descending floor numbers, his expression pensive. Lois's words were echoing in his mind, casting a long, sinister shadow over the glittering evening that was to come. Their simple quest for a suit now felt like the calm before a very different kind of storm that was being made in the shadows. The bell above the door of Bernard's bespoke of alterations gave a soft, gentle chime, a stark contrast to the metropolitan roar that was outside. The interior was a sanctuary of quiet order. Boats of fine fabric lined the walls, and the air smelled of cedar, steam, and lemon polish. An elderly man with a meticulous posture and sharp eyes behind his spectacles looked up from a drafting table. Ah, Mr. Kent! A pleasure, the tailor Bernard said, his voice as measured as it seems. Then his gaze shifted to Goku, his professional smile faltered, then transformed into something wide and genuinely awestruck. He set down his shears with a quiet clatter. By all the saints, it's you! Bernard breathed, stepping out from behind the counter. He didn't offer a hand to shake. Instead, he placed his own over his heart and gave a small, deep bow. I wondered if I'd ever get the chance. Clark was puzzled, and he glanced between them. You two know each other? Know him? Mr. Kent, this man saved my granddaughter's life, Bernard said, his voice thick. He pointed a slightly trembling finger at Goku. Look, some years ago, the live wire attack in Centennial Park. A girder from the shattered monument was falling right where she was strapped. I was watching it all on the news, and I was helpless. And then he was just there. He looked at Goku, his eyes glistening. You caught it with one hand. Didn't even seem to strain. And then you set it down like it was a piece of firewood and pulled her out and gave her up to a paramedic before shooting back into the sky. You never even looked at the cameras. Goku scratched his cheek, a faint blush of embarrassment coloring his features. He racked his brain, images of that chaotic fight flashing, live wires cackling, the ozone smell, the collapsing stage. The people were a blur of movement and panic. Yeah, that. Yeah, I remember that fight. The lady with the electric hair was really fast. And also kind of crazy. There's a lot of stuff falling. I'm just glad your granddaughter's okay. Okay? She's thriving because of you, Bernard insisted. He straightened his vest, composing himself, but the reverence remained. Anyway, so you need a suit, I presume. The gossip columns are buzzing. He waved a dismissive hand at Clark. Put your money away, Mr. Kent. For this man, there is no bill. Not today. Not even at my... Not ever at my shop. What do you want, wool, linen? I have a remarkable new ballistic silk blend. Light as air, but it could probably stop a bullet. We'll make you something that looks like $1 million and can survive a you. Goku being the awkwardness replaced by genuine delight. Really? That's amazing. Thanks, Mr. Bernard. Just Bernard. The tailor was already pulling a tape measure from around his neck, his professional instincts overriding the emotion. Now, let's see. The shoulders will need special consideration. Given the latent musculature, this is going to be a delight. Clark watched with a warm smile on his face. In the vast, often tragic tapestry of their very lives, these moments were pure gold. He saw not the universe. He saw not the planet shaking sand, but the simple, good man whose reflexive heroism had woven a thread of gratitude into the life of a humble tailor. As Bernard began taking measurements, chatting softly about lapel styles, Clark leaned against the counter. The looming dread Lois's warnings faded briefly, replaced by the simple, solid goodness of the present. A hero that was being thanked, not with a medal, but with a kindness as finely crafted as the suit he was about to receive. The transformation was nothing short of astonishing. When Goku emerged from the fitting room, Clark's eyebrows shot toward his hairline. Bernard had performed a sartorial miracle. The foundation was a suit of profound yet understated quality. The jacket, however, was a statement piece. It was a vibrant, seamless orange that precisely matched the burnt sunset hue of his classic gi. It was cut not like a traditional blazer, but with a martial artist's freedom in mind. The shoulders subtly reinforced and tapered to accommodate his powerful deltoids without pulling. The back pleated to allow for his full range of motion. It was a piece of formal wear engineered for a living weapon, in the color of his martial arts heritage. Beneath it, a crisp bone white dress shirt provided a clean canvas, its fabric a high thread count cotton that felt sturdy against his skin. At his throat, the knot of a tie in a deep oceanic blue was perfectly dimpled, a spot of cool color against the warm orange and white. Peeking from the breast pocket of the blazing jacket was a matching blue silk handkerchief arranged in the precise peak fold, a tiny deliberate echo of the tie and a nod to formality he'd never understand, yet now wore it effortlessly. The trousers were a classic charcoal gray, offering a grounding contrast to the bold top half above, and fell straight to polished black Oxfords that somehow looked both elegant and ready for a fight. Bernard had tailored everything to a T. It fit his powerful frame impeccably, hinting at the tremendous physique beneath without straining at the seams. This was no borrowed or rented costume. It was his armor for the evening, a brilliant translation of the wandering sane martial artist into the lexicon of metropolis high society. He looked simultaneously out of place and perfectly himself, a force of nature contained just for the night within the lines of a master tailor's grateful art. So how'd I look? Then we went to the crisp evening air of Metropolis. It carried the distant sounds of traffic and chatter as Clark and Goku stepped out of Bernard's tailor shop, the bell's gentle chime fading behind them. Clark, still smiling at the sight of his brother, transformed into a pillar of sartorial excellence. He clapped a warm hand on Goku's orange-clad shoulder. You know, Clark said, a fond teasing glint in his eye, always thought the only time I'd ever see you in a suit like this would be at your wedding. If that day ever came. Goku looked down at the brilliant orange fabric, his brow furrowing for a second, and thought, huh? Oh, a wedding? Nah, me and Diana aren't doing that right now, he said, his tone as casual as if he were discussing the weather. He adjusted the cuffs of his shirt, a small focused gesture. We've got other stuff to figure out first. We're having twins. He delivered the line with the same straightforward, unburdened clarity he used to describe a new training technique. Then he glanced up at the darkening sky, a practical look on his face. Anyways, Clark, thanks for the help. Clark, the party's going to start soon. See you around. Before Clark could even process the words, before his brain could form a single syllable in response, Goku gave a little wave, crouched slightly, and shot up into the sky with a soft thrum of displaced air. He became a diminishing streak of orange and blue against the twilight, heading toward the glittering bayfront. What? Clark stood frozen on the sidewalk. The sounds of the city, the honking cabs, the chatter of pedestrians, the distant wail of a siren all melted into a formless buzzing white noise. His super hearing, usually a symphony of the world's minutiae, narrowed to the frantic sudden hammering of his own heart. His vision, capable of seeing subatomic particles, blurred at the edges, fixating on the empty spot of air where Goku had just been. Twins? The word echoed in the sudden vast silence of his mind, a depth charge detonating in the calm waters of the evening. It wasn't just the fact of a pregnancy, which was staggering enough given Diana's Amazonian nature, a mystery he'd needed to unravel later but never thought of asking her directly about. It was the casual, effortless way it had been revealed. No solemn announcement, no nervous joy, just a simple statement of fact dropped between a sartorial joke and a farewell. A torrent of emotions crashed over him, each one vying for dominance. Profound shock, yes. A spike of protective concern for Diana and his brother facing the unknown. But beneath it, swelling faster and much more brighter, was an immense, overwhelming wave of familial joy. A nephew and a niece. The Kent family forged from Starship Rex and Kansas soil was growing. His little brother was going to be a father. He realized his mouth was still slightly open. He closed it, swallowing hard, a slow, incredulous smile beginning to break through the shock, but it was tempered by the sheer weight of the revelation. He leaned back against the tailor shop's brick facade, needing the solid support. Twins, he whispered to the empty air, the word finally finding sound. He looked up at the first stars beginning to pierce the metropolitan glow, a laugh of pure wonder and disbelief bubbling in his chest. Goku was halfway across the city by now, likely already thinking about the buffet table, completely oblivious to the seismic shockwave he just left rippling through his brother's soul on a quiet metropolis sidewalk. The polished marble floor of the metropolis bayfront pavilion seemed to absorb sound rather than reflect it, creating a low, murmuring hum that set Goku's teeth on edge. He stood just inside the grand entrance, a blazing sunspot in a sea of monochrome and muted jewel tones. The orange of his jacket, which he had felt so right in the tailor shop, now screamed in the softly lit room. Around him, the cream, navy, and charcoal gray of hundreds of other suits and gowns flowed like a slow, calculated river of importance. He felt the stares, not the awestruck gazes of citizens after a battle, but the cool, appraising glances of the powerful. They were glances that inventoried, categorized, and dismissed. A woman in a silver dress sipped champagne, her eyes flicking from his spiky hair to his bright jacket, with a barely concealed smirk. A cluster of men in nearly identical black tuxedos paused their conversation about market futures, their eyes narrowing as they took in his unusual martial arts-inspired cut. Their whispers were like the rustle of expensive paper. The cologne and the faint, greasy scent of canape circling on the silver trays. It was nothing like the clear, open sense of Themyscira or the honest sweat and leather smell of a training ground. Every breath felt processed and artificial. People moved with a gliding, purposely relaxed pace he found bewildering. They engaged in a ritual of gentle touches on arms, slight leans into conversations, and laughter that was a dry, polite sound, nothing like the full-bellied laughs that he shared with his friends. He saw a man effortlessly balance a delicate flute and a small plate of food while shaking hands, a feat of coordination that seemed more impressive to Goku than some of the combat maneuvers he learned himself in his younger years. He was an engine of kinetic energy trapped in a gallery of still lifes. Every instinct told him to move, to act, to engage, but here, action was a subtle tilt of the head, engagement a carefully chosen synonym. His power, his his greatest attribute, was rendered utterly irrelevant in this scenery. He wasn't out of place because he was weak. He was out of place because the currency of this realm was influence, pedigree, and a language of subtlety that he never needed to learn, nor had interest in. He was a nuclear reactor at a chess tournament, immensely powerful and completely awkwardly missing the point of the game. The suit Bernard had made with such gratitude felt less like a gift and more like a very colorful cage for the spectators who looked like they saw him as some type of zoo attraction. A low murmur of the gala was confused in an ocean of sound, and Goku stood on its shore feeling profoundly adrift. The stares were like pinpricks on his skin. Not hostile, but assessing, dissecting. He was a specimen under glass. Then a familiar voice cut through the haze, smooth and deliberate as a scalpel. I must admit, I was beginning to wonder if your definition of on time involved a last-minute battle with some rogue asteroid or something. Lex Luther materialized from the crowd as if parting a curtain. He was a portrait of monolithic power in a suit of obsidian black silk, so impeccably tailored it seemed to reject the very concept of a wrinkle. A single tasteful platinum L glinted on his lapel, and he sported a purple tie as he held a glass of amber liquid that was untouched, more of a prop than a beverage. His smile was a thin, satisfied line as his eyes traveled over Goku from head to toe. But you've arrived, Lex continued, his gaze finally setting on the blazing orange jacket, and you've certainly committed to an aesthetic. He took a half step back, performing a mock appraisal. A very bold choice, truly. He let the word hang, lacing it with layers of meaning. In Lex's world, bold was rarely a compliment. It was a synonym for risky, unrefined, brazenly unaware of the unspoken rules. He gestured slightly with his glass toward the sea of navy and charcoal. In a room where conformity is the highest currency, you've decided to print your own. Orange, the color of warning signs, of construction bearers, of sheer unapologetic visibility. His smile didn't reach his cold green eyes. It tells people that you do not care to blend in, that you are fundamentally unlike them. A statement piece in every sense. I suppose when one can bench press a freight train, one doesn't need to speak in subdued language of fabric. He was complimenting the suit to critique the man, praising the audacity to highlight the otherness. For Lex, Goku's outfit was a perfect metaphor for the Saiyan himself. Powerful, visceral, and impossible to ignore, and utterly disruptive to the elegant, controlled order that Lex sought to impose upon the world. He liked it, precisely because it confirmed his thesis that Goku was a force and not necessarily a peer. He was a phenomenon and not necessarily an equal. And in Lex's grand design, phenomena were to be studied, utilized, and, if he could, controlled. But he did respect Goku's lack of concern for the common opinion. Goku, missing the venomous subtext but sensing the examination, just shrugged. The fine fabric of Bernard's masterpiece moving with his shoulders. Yeah, my friend Bernard made it. He said it was tough. I just wanted something I could move in. Lex's smile tightened, a flicker of annoyance at the simplicity that deflected his complexity. Of course, function over form. A practical philosophy. He then gestured toward a raised dais at the front of the door, or in front of the room, where a sleek podium stood under the spotlight. Come, your timing is, for once, impeccable. You're just in time to hear about the future of Metropolis. He placed a guiding hand on Goku's back, a gesture that was both proprietorial and subtly steering, and began leading him through the crowd, the vibrant orange jacket cutting through a defiant path through the monochrome sea, exactly as Lex had intended. The exhibit was now being presented to the audience. The sea of tuxedos and gowns rippled with anticipatory silence as Lex Luthor took the podium. The spotlight made the platinum L on his lapel gleam like a cold star. His smile was a masterclass in congenial authority. "Ladies and gentlemen," Lex began, his voice resonating through the flawless sound system, "we gather tonight not merely to celebrate progress, but to champion a new paradigm. For too long, humanity has gazed upward, not in wonder but in trepidation, at forces beyond our understanding, at beings who operate from the shadows draped in wings, capes, masks, accountable to no one, imposing their own vague morality upon us all." He paused, letting the subtle disdain in his words settle over the crowd. A few uncomfortable ships, but mostly nods of agreement from the powerful. "They hide their faces," Lex continued, his tone sharpening. "They conceal their identities. They ask for our trust while offering none in return. They are ghosts, with the powers similar to demigods, and they have made us spectators of our own destinies." Then his gesture was a theatrical sweep, his focus laser sharp. "But look, among us tonight. Look at the man standing beside me." Every head turned, the spotlight, as if on cue, widened to the envelope to envelop Goku. He stood frozen, a statue of vibrant orange in the monochrome room, as his expression shifted from a polite boredom to a dawning confusion. The massive screens flanked the podium flickered to life, not with corporate logos, but with footage. "We know his name," Lex declared as the screen showed Goku as a boy in Lex Corp. "It is not a secret. He is Goku." The footage changed to Goku younger than he is now, fighting alongside Aquaman against King Piccolo, his tail visible on footage. "We know his origin. He does not hide it. But he was raised in the heart of America by hard-working farmers." The video showed the Kent farm and Martha waving from the porch. Apparently he had visited her at some point. Lex's voice swelled with a persuasive conviction. "He does not wear a mask. He does not skulk in the dark." The screens now showed recent news clips. Goku in his torn gi carrying civilians from the Arkham fire. Goku exhausted and battered after the battle with Vegeta. He wears this simple garb of a martial artist that seeks improvement, the honest uniform of a working athlete. He stands in the light, and he bleeds in the light. He shows his flaws in the light. Goku's jaw tightened. He saw himself on screen, covered in the grime and blood, his face etched with pain and effort. It felt intrusive. This wasn't a celebration of heroism. It felt more like an autopsy. "And when invited to walk among us," Lex said, his hand indicating the gala, "he came. Despite the discomfort it clearly brings him." The camera feed cut to a live shot of Goku from moments ago, looking profoundly out of place, a fish in a crystal bowl. A few chuckles echoed, polite but edged with superiority. "He honors his word. He engages with the society that he chooses to protect. He is not a distant god. He is a neighbor, a citizen, a known quantity." Inside Goku's mind raced, costume wearing, holier than thou. The words seemed to be aimed at his friends, like Clark, Diana, and even Bruce. His friends. People who had rules, who struggled with the weight of their power every day. But Lex was twisting everything. He made their caution seem like arrogance, their secrecy seem like contempt. He made Goku's own simplicity look like transparency, while framing their complexity as nothing more than deceit. A hot ember of disagreement glowed within his chest, and he wanted to step forward to say that he was wrong, and that wasn't right, and they're better than that. They're trying to do good, the best way they know how. But he stuck to his word of no speeches, just his presence. His fist clenched slightly at his side, the fine silk of Bernard's trousers stretching over his thigh. He remained a silent, blazing monument at Lex's side, his discomfort now magnified tenfold, not by the crowd, but by the sickening feeling that his very image was being used as some sort of weapon to fracture the world he was trying to help. The applause that began to roll through the room felt like a physical pressure, a wave trying to shape him into something that he wasn't, all orchestrated by the man with the cold, triumphant smile that was beside him. The applause for Lex's carefully crafted praise of Goku began to ebb, but Lex did not step away from the podium. Instead, he raised a hand not for silence, but for heightened attention. The spotlight remained fixed on them both, binding Goku's vibrant orange to Lex's monolithic black in the eyes of the crowd. With a practiced, congenial smile, Lex descended the single step from the dais. He moved to stand beside Goku, close enough for the cameras to frame them both together. The brilliant, unconventional power and the sharp, guiding intellect. He placed a firm proprietorial hand on Goku's shoulder, a gesture that felt less like camaraderie and more like a claim being staked. "My friends," Lex began, his voice dropping into a more intimate yet still perfectly projected register. "Tonight, we have celebrated transparency. We have celebrated a power that does not hide, but stands right beside us, a strength that is accountable because it is known." He paused, his gaze sweeping the room, meeting the eyes of donors, media magnates, and political operatives. The air grew taut with anticipation. This was no longer a speech about heroes, it was shifting into something else entirely. "But admiration is not enough," Lex continued, his tone hardening with resolve. "Celebration without action is merely pageantry. We have seen where a lack of accountability, a lack of true leadership has brought us. Our city, our very nation looks to the skies and sees nothing but chaos. It looks to the shadows and sees arbiters who were never elected. It is time to look forward, to build a future where order is not imposed from above by the mysterious and the masked, but built from the ground up by the people and for the people." He squeezed Goku's shoulder slightly, a silent cue for the cameras to hold the shot. Goku stood rigid, his jaw tight, feeling like a prop in a play that he never planned on auditioning for. "Therefore," Lex announced, his voice rising to a clear declarative peak that filled the pavilion, "I will not stand idly by as the old guard clings to its broken methods. I will not allow the destiny of this great city to be decided in back alleys and satellite fortresses. It is time for leadership that embraces the light of progress, that champions human achievement, and that holds all power to a public standard." He let the moment hang, a master of suspense. Every person in the room leaned forward. "It is my great honor and my solemn duty to announce to you all tonight, the first to know, that I, Lex Luther, will be running for the office of mayor of Metropolis." A wave of gasps, followed by instant thunderous applause, erupted. Camera flashes erupted in a staccato burst, painting the scene in blinding white, as Lex accepted it with a modest nod, his hand still anchored on Goku's shoulder, physically linking his political destiny to the Saiyan's very public image. "I run not for prestige," he proclaimed over the applause, "but for principle, to bring the values we see here tonight, transparency, strength, and unwavering commitment, to the people of this city, into the heart of our government. Together, we will not just rebuild Metropolis, we will redefine it. We will prove that humanity's greatest days are not behind us, protected by relics, but ahead of us, built by our own hands and our own will. Thank you." The applause swelled into a roar. Lex finally released Goku's shoulder, turning to shake hands with well-wishers already surging forward. Goku was left standing slightly adrift in the spotlight, the dazzling orange of his suit now feeling like the banner of a campaign he never signed up for. He looked out at a cheering crowd, their faces alight with a fervor that he didn't share, and the ember of disagreement in his chest burned hotter. Lex had just moved the battle from the streets to the ballot box, and he'd placed Goku squarely on his stage as a living symbol of his new, unsettling vision. The party was over, and his campaign had just begun. So yeah, man, that'll be the end of this episode. I hope you guys liked it. This is like the second episode where there wasn't a lot of action that happened. It was more so world building. You guys like it anyway. I appreciate that. I'm glad you guys like even the episodes I do where there's no action. There's going to be action next episode, by the way. And an android is going to make an appearance. I'm not going to say who or what, or is it going to be a crossover? Y'all find out when it happens, though. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section, man. Of course, once again, shout out to the members, man. I love y'all. Appreciate y'all, man. Y'all inspire me to keep going. Appreciate the subscribers, man. We just hit 1230. Let's hit 2,000. All right, let's hit 2,000, man. like, comment, subscribe, all that. Hype up the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.